Bank of America.
Oh, well. Sorry I'm late. Call the order at 6:19. This is the Town of Newport Planning Board, October 10th. And we'll start with a roll call with Jeff on my right.
Jeff North.
Ken Merrill?
Tobin Menard.
David Burnham, Chair. Agenda review, any changes need to be made?
No.
Okay. Any continued business?
No.
And we'll run right into new business then, which is 2023 SPFP 023, 169 Sunapee Street, LLC owners. John Levitas, agent, requests a final site plan review for a 70-unit dwelling complex. The property is identified as map 112, lot 032, and is located at 169 Sunapee Street in the single-family zoning district, general residential zoning district, and the industrial zoning district. Notes being that the application was approved in 2017, again in 2019. Exterior lighting on the structure and parking lot required downcast and sharp cutoff. New entryway moved from Canal Street to Cross Street. Variance was granted for a reduction in parking from 2 per unit to 1.57 on April 20th. 2023 from the zoning board.
That's correct. They took into consideration, I think, single one-bedroom and studios, the number of one-bedroom studios to reduce that.
So, do we have a motion to?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we accept 2023-SPFP-023 as complete.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second that.
Jeff? We have a motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. And John Levitas?
Yes.
You are the man that we won't need to hear from. So, we have, everybody's got the maps. So, if you give us a rundown of what your plans are.
Yeah, sure. I think some of you are familiar with my face, some of you aren't. We've been here a few times. Obviously, we've been approved in 2017, 2019. I wasn't part of those applications. I've been working on this project for a year now. The reason we're back is that there was a little bit of confusion on the paperwork side. We thought we had 17 months left, but there was a mix-up, and we're back to get reapproved. The plans have not changed since the approval. Outside of the parking, lighting concept is still the same. No new building structures, nothing along those lines. I think the big thing I wanted to do tonight was we have our whole team here. We've got Eric Robinson from Rhodey, architect. Amanda Sanders is on the line. She's the architect. Chris Schleier is from Elm Grove. He's our property manager. We have Megan Carrier, our counsel. Miles Stetson, who's a Newport born and raised, potentially. He's the structural engineer. Probably forgetting a few people. John Roque, he's the civil. We also have Andrew Dorset from the state of New Hampshire to talk a little bit about Invest NH and the grant that we're in line to receive that will bring $700,000 to Newport to be used as Newport sees fit as part of this project, which I think is an important piece that doesn't get brought up enough. And then just generally, I wanted to try to end some misconceptions here about this project. You know, as I said, I've only been on this for a year. It's been in the public eye for 5 years. We are ready to pull permits. We are ready to start construction. We have full bid. We have construction documents. We are ready to build. Another piece of that is when we eventually do pull those permits, that's when Andrew can talk more about it, but that's when that Invest NH grant can be awarded to Newport. So that money is there, ready to be handed to Newport, and it can be used for anything. Schools, roads, you name it, lower water bills, I mean, it's up to the town. And so we're very excited to be bringing that as part of this development. And I think outside of that, we've got 70 units, 94 bedrooms. It's a mix of studios, 19 studios, 31 bedrooms, 16 two-bedrooms, and 4 three-bedrooms. I think another misconception here is who's going to be living in this development. This is workforce housing, people making 60% of the AMI. Some of the comments I've heard from the public is that they think people from New York City are going to be shipped up here to be moving here. The people who will be living here live in Newport. They're going to be working at the restaurants, post office, schools, gas station, you name it. It's usually, and Chris can speak more to this, usually the residents who are moving from the area from an apartment that might not be in great condition to a brand new apartment that they can live in. It will be 55 plus. It's going to be a true mix of everyone in the community. And I think there's been a strong misconception here that this is not that. It's going to turn into a dilapidated, I don't even know, but this is going to be, Eric can talk about the stuff they build in historic adaptive reuses. This is going to be a very, very high quality place to live where people can be proud of their apartments. It's going to be managed by Elm Grove, who has hundreds of units under management and has managed these affordable deals in the past. And part of that is income verification. Everyone here will have to be verifying income. They will have jobs. They will have to live up to the standards of what is meant to be a tenant in this building. From there, we have everyone here to answer any and all questions. That was my hope tonight. Usually when we come here, there's a lot of questions. And I'm hoping that, we don't have to talk too much, and instead we can have a discourse and answer any questions from the board or the public. Because I think our goal is to eliminate the misconceptions about this development. And from there, I'll open up to questions or anything else.
Same project. Twice.
I got one question.
Yep.
Relocation of the road,
So it went from here, from here, so it went to the driveway.
oh, so it went closer to Canal Street, is that correct?
It's on Canal.
Yeah,
From Frost to Canal.
there's currently, there's the road there that's existing that's going to be. John, I'm not sure if you can hear that question about the road coming off Canal Street to Cross Street.
Yes, I can. So yeah, the road that comes, we're basically, I think the reason why it got a little bit closer to Canal Street originally was we were widening the road a little bit, and the inside edge of the road was almost right up against the pond. And to make it a two-way traffic road, it had to just get widened a little bit. That was the reasoning for that improvement that we did in 2017. And that's all part of our alteration of terrain permit. That was all part of the original design, and nothing has changed with that.
Square
Below it, yeah.
all that there.
By about 30 feet.
Oh, yeah, that from the other end.
So got
Here's the new road. The old one was up here, so that. So it went down. So it's all on the cross. That's better. This was good.
Was there any intent to put in connections to the walking trail? I know we were talking to some.
The rail line?
Yeah.
Not in this development, there's the parcel further south that I think has more of a direct connection across.
This-
across the
Cross,
street.
Those
21
bonds, other
cross.
side,
No,
And
great.
also was, this one here leaves no mention of the parking garages that were gonna go on the other parcel.
That's a
All
separate.
parking's on site
All
now?
parking is on site, correct.
Okay.
Unrelated to this, to the parking on the road, is the silo remaining
Silos
on
remaining.
it,
yes.
and to just look cool
to-
or being
just to
repurposed,
stay.
or just to
There's
sit
no big-
there?
Yeah, it's just staying.
Yeah. I know you said that everything was just staying, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. It does, has.
Yeah,
Character.
it'll live on.
Yeah, it has character. It has character. I was just
Technically not historic, but it will stay.
right,
Now it's
right,
historic.
and maybe someday full of chips and fire,
Yeah.
another furnace again. I remember when it had purpose, and when all the wood chips were in there, and I remember going and seeing the furnaces firing, and thinking this is an incredible piece of
Yeah.
technology. That and so I was curious on that. And then the building that's up top here with the really beautiful
The office.
the slate roof on it, still going to be a manager's office.
That office will stay, it's actually going to be vacant
Yeah.
due to cost issues. It actually has asbestos in the tiles, there's tube lighting, there's a whole bunch of code compliant issues. There's currently 2 bathrooms, code was going to require a 3rd ADA bathroom. We would have had to take tube lighting out, we would have to deal with the asbestos in the tiles. It just became a massive cost.
9-inch tile in floor tile.
Yes.
Yeah, love that.
But it will be maintained in the sense that there will be heat. It's not just gonna, we're gonna maintain that structure. It's gonna continue to live on as is. Unfortunately, we just can't occupy it.
Yeah, it's a pretty building.
Yeah, it is.
So, and then you have the shop down here, right?
Yes.
The retail shop, is that?
We call it the annex space. So you can see in this picture the main 4-story mill.
Yeah.
That's where all the apartments will be. And then you have the smokestack there. Below that is what we call the annex, a single story.
but the white one, the stone.
Oh, the stone one.
Yeah.
That's on a different parcel.
Yeah.
And so that will live on as is.
Okay.
It'd be great to eventually build the building that used to be there. Have you seen pictures of that?
Yeah, I just remember it as
My
a,
grandfather owned all that.
Oh, really?
I remember it as a used car.
Oh, there was 4 apartments on each side,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the store in the middle,
yeah.
grocery store. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
On the planet.
Okay, I'll open it to the public. Is there any questions, comments for the project? Yes, sir.
Larry Schissel. Are any of these going to be market rate apartments?
No, all of them will be portable. We had originally tried to, and then due to the nature of how New Hampshire housing works, that you get credits for each type of affordable, or how many affordable units you have. And again, due to the interest rates and costs, we just weren't able to find a program that worked with market rate.
And again, can you outline then the requirements to qualify for the subsidized?
Sure. I can.
Chris can.
Well, first of all, my name is Chris Clark. My company manages about 2,000 units in New Hampshire, and about 700 of them are affordable like this, and I've been doing this for about 20 years, so in Florida I also manage properties I visit. So for qualifying a resident to meet the minimum ability to pay the rent would have to earn around $40,000 a year. And
That'd be a family of one.
that is, so they do, the minimum is fixed. It's based on the number, the rental rate. It's 2.5 times the monthly rent. That's something that we set. We want to make sure people can afford it. We're including utilities on this property, so normally it would be 3 times the monthly rent, but we can reduce that because they don't have the utility burden. And then on the higher end, the maximum income they can make is based on number of people. So it's going to be essentially between $40,000 a year and $60,000 a year for a household to qualify, and that kind of runs a range of 1 to 3 people. Now, the vast majority of these apartments will be occupied by one person. That's what we generally see. I would think maybe less than a quarter would have more than one person rates on these will range from $1,050 for a studio to $1,125 for a one-bedroom and $1,350 for a two-bedroom. So if you think of what market rent is now, which is probably around, in this area, probably around $1,700 for a two-bedroom apartment, it's $300-400 less than what people would ultimately be paying for market. We will run credit, criminal, eviction, and income verification on everybody that qualifies. Our goal is to get a good local working people qualified with it.
So a professional couple with one child making 70 to 75 or X'd out of this?
They would not qualify. Yeah, they have enough income. All of the qualifications are based on the median income of the area, which is around $95,000 right now. So this is based on 60%. If there's a household of 9 people, then they would qualify, but there's no apartment there that can hold 9 people, and we just don't see that.
There's no way that part of this could be market rate?
You know, that's a question, but not at this point. Market rate, well, that would allow certainly more people to qualify to live there, but it would also increase the rent for that person.
Hence market rate.
Right.
Are there any other questions, comments? Anybody have any comments or questions against the project?
So when you say including utilities, is that including all utilities, or including heat and hot water, and they pay their own electric? Or?
Owner will pay electric, heat. You're putting solar, I believe?
No, there's
No solar. So they'll pay electric and heat, and otherwise the program would have us lower the rent for utility allowance, since we're including it all, we were able to charge the most they allow us to charge, and residents get the security of not, fluctuating utility bills throughout the year. We think that creates a lot of stability, and we can control generally the utility costs through volume purchasing of third-party utilities, or insulation and improvements and that sort of thing.
So is that billed into their monthly
Yep.
cost?
Yep. The person living there will pay, like I said, $12.50 or $12.80 for a two-bedroom apartment, and nothing more.
What about the water and sewer fees that are associated with the structure?
You're also covering water and sewer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not sub-metered.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yep.
So
They'll be all $12.80 for a two-bedroom apartment.
So will those rents adjust according to utilities as they increase or decrease? Say, oil goes higher than it already is, or electricity goes higher.
Utility costs will not play into it. The only thing that will adjust the rents is if the area median income goes up or down, and then there'll be an adjustment. I see in places like Portsmouth or Salem, you can have some pretty wild adjustments. Not wild, but there'll be greater adjustments in area median income. Generally, the last few years they've gone up quite a bit. But in more rural areas, that $95,000 of area median income is probably pretty stable for a long period of time. So I would suspect people living there won't see large rent increases. And if area median income goes down, then rent goes downward as well. But I think it'll stay pretty stable. And imagine somebody could live there for 5 years and not see much of an increase in rent.
So it's not utility based. I mean, I know with the way the utilities go crazy, that if you see yourself losing vast amounts of money because electricity quadruples or something like that, that is still regulated by the project, and you're not, as an owner, you're not allowed to say someone moves out and you say, we need to adjust this because electricity's gotten so expensive. Does that unit move up? So it's sort of like the units that are in New York City, where you basically, people move in, it's sort of like a fixed rent that allows you to.
I think every year New Hampshire Housing releases the rents.
Every year
They release a new rent in terms of the median income and the corresponding rents, and I think they also release charge on utilities, right?
They do, but that won't affect you.
Yeah.
He's taking all the risk on utilities, he's assuming that he can control those costs and make it make sense.
Okay.
So our building is all electric. Outside, the boiler will stay to heat the annex space, but these units are going to be highly efficient, new electric heat pumps. Am I saying that correctly? Heat pumps are the mini split systems that, theoretically have lower bills.
Right.
And allow to be maintained heat and cool.
Right. Mini splits.
Yeah.
Anyone else like to speak? Seeing none, we'll come back to the board.
Did you want to have your state guy speak?
Would you like me to?
Yeah, if you want to talk a little bit more about this, I think it's an important piece.
Yeah, we're a part of this project, part of the financial stack, and also, we also have money that's potentially available to the town based on the project. So, Invest in New Hampshire, it was a $100 million program where we're trying to attack or have an impact on the housing shortage. So in New Hampshire right now, the vacancy rate for apartments is 0.5%, which is really not a healthy place to be. If you haven't been in the market for looking for an apartment, then you might not be aware of how difficult it actually is. And the group that we hear about the need for housing is actually employers throughout New Hampshire. They're at a critical place where they can't get workers because they can't get housing for them. So right now, the state as a whole is down 23,700 units, and the number for the projection is set to grow to 90,000 just over the next decade or so. So it's a big problem that we can't keep up with, and so at Invest NH, we've noticed Newport and developers like John, and you guys are doing a good job in supporting housing, and we appreciate that. And as such, that's where our municipal per unit program comes in. And like John was saying, that project, off of this project, you would stand to get $700,000, and you can really use it for whatever you like. Some towns probably use it to leverage other federal money. Our money is considered state, so you can match it to federal dollars for, say, the USDA sewer project or CDBG money. So
Funny you should say that.
It's pretty free to use at the town's discretion. So, and to answer, I think there was a question earlier about is anything market rate and could it be? I think that the problem in this market right now is that it's very difficult with inflation for the financing, for traditional financing, and other expenses related to things that have probably been created by the supply chain. Just everything, the cost of money and materials is just so high that it's hard to make a deal like this work, if possible at all, for market rate. The prices just have to be really high. So this is great, and it supplies something we definitely see as needed in the state. So, and just to give you a quick overview, Newport isn't by far the only community. We have about 30 projects throughout the state geographically. Two of them that we're involved with are actually in Newport. And with that, we have $60 million outlaid directly to developments. We have $30 million that's set aside for municipalities to help them incentivize the permitting process and also help you offset the cost of development through those funds that come with the $700,000 that John's project will bring to this town. We also have demolition money, so we pay for monies that go into, if there was major internal demolition, which I don't think there is on this site, then we potentially have funds that would come in and help supplement that up to $500,000. And we also do complete raising of structures, so it's a clear blight, create green space or parking, or other things that support housing. And then we do a number of projects partnered with New Hampshire Housing and also Plan New Hampshire to help municipalities look at their planning and zoning and just see if there's some aspects of it that may be outdated or could be potential unknown barriers to creating affordable housing. So that's what we're doing, and we're glad to be here in Newport. We're glad to work with developers like that.
Okay, so have you talked to Paul Brown? So Paul's the finance, town manager, finance
Yes,
director? Just to make sure he's aware. I don't know, Christina, Allison needs to...
Yes, we.
They're all aware of this.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so yes, there's no, and we do have to apply for it once the permit's given. That's all they need, and then we can go right with the town, with the state.
Okay.
And it's as easy as creating a a dwelling that isn't market rate gets you the $10,000 per dwelling. That's all you had to do.
Okay. And we will, for the $10,000, we will go up to 80% AMI, which is, a significant jump. And one other thing that Newport might want to keep in mind, because I think the other project has 44 units.
42.
42, so that's another 420. If you can actually go over $1 million. We have a waiver process where the municipality could get over $1 million, so you don't have to lose out on those extra units. But
Good,
that's,
thank you.
that's what we do. So,
Thank you.
Can I have one more comment?
Sure.
There's been one thing that we've run into is this question about school children and the effect on, I'm just going to bring it up because it's been brought up enough, and I think that's one piece you haven't touched on in terms of how common it is for children to be in these developments. I know that's been a concern about the potential weight on taxpayers and school costs, so I don't...
I mean, three things. There are studies out there now through the Bartlett Center and through New Hampshire Housing that show it used to be that a household would provide 2 children to the school district, and that has dropped down to below 0.5, 0.5. My experience in these types of developments is that, especially in rural areas, the majority of the people are going to be seniors. There'll be a small number of children, and I think the majority of the people that will ultimately end up living here will come from this community and probably from the existing school district. So it'll have a very minimal impact. We have properties in Salem, 150 units. That there might be 6 children in the whole thing. Don't ask me why that's the case. I mean, studio, 1-bedroom apartments being the majority here has a lot to do with that. People are waiting longer to have children, and if they have children, there's 2 adults probably making more money than they could qualify to live in these apartments with. Right? So.
Thank you. So, do you find that with a 2-bedroom, then if someone is renting that as a office, as opposed to, I mean, typically you have 1 adult in 1 bedroom, then the 2nd bedroom it means a child in that unit.
Yeah,
Is that not the case, or?
A lot of them are used for home office. They can afford it. If they're making $50,000 a year, they're able to afford it really without a problem. They just have a little bit more space.
Okay, so it's not a stipulation that because it's a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom that has to have a family and occupy with a child in that 2nd room.
No, we have no minimum requirement. We won't allow, we're looking to keep it to no more than, 1 person per bedroom. It's kind of a HUD standard. But there's no minimum requirement for somebody renting a 2 or 3-bedroom apartment. They're just 1 person.
Right.
Any other questions? What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that before I make a motion, these, on approval, is 3 years?
Pardon me?
So
Your plans.
if we, on approval, the approval is good for 3 years before start, right, for regulation? To
I'm
avoid
not
what
positive
the
on
dates
that.
were on the previous.
That was, the previous was 54 months. But
The second.
typically site plans, if they don't change, they don't need to expire. There's no state regulating that. So unless you set an expiration date, which I would suggest not, but I don't think there's a concern of it going past a 12-month period, and hopefully, like John mentioned, significantly less.
Okay.
But obviously, that's up to you if you want. You haven't, since my tenure here, put an expiration date on a site plan that does not change.
Okay.
That doesn't mean anything, though. That's just bad knowledge.
Thank you. So I will make a motion that we approve, that we approve 2023-SPFP-023 as submitted.
I'll second it.
We have a second. We have a motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
You got your unit approval. Thank you very much.
I told you. was right for once.
Just want to make sure.
Oh, no, I don't. I think you could have done, I meant to say you, it's up to you. It wasn't Where's the rubber
Do we
bullets?
have Mylars and stuff to sign?
Doesn't need a Mylar for a site plan,
Oh, that's right.
because it's not a
Well,
subdivision or anything, but I think, and you signing,
And these had
sign
signature
them
blocks.
for the, for the files.
Your car fixed?
Thank you.
Take care.
So we
Wanna
should
sign
be,
these?
yeah, that's fine, right? But sign the front, so you don't hold it.
Yeah, sign
Only
the-
one had a block, so
Yeah.
let's just do it.
Okay.
That way it's done and over with. Yeah, for some reason I don't have
Thank you, guys.
that. Thank you. That was
Take
interesting,
care.
thank you.
Yeah, it was.
I should come back to the select board or something sometime, probably.
That would be
Yeah,
great.
that would be really, so I'd reach out to Paul and get on that agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect, thank you.
So,
Here, I'll take this from you. And
all
then,
right, but these are my notes, but that's okay.
do you want them in there? Or no, you can
Oh,
keep
wait a
them.
minute. No, I'm good. Yep, we're good.
So it's
Gotta go back the other way. Here's the next one.
I don't know where you want me to put this, I was just thinking they might be able to see it.
You probably, they've got it, so that whiteboard is their projected unit. I don't know how,
I think that,
is that gonna be okay right there?
yes, is it the back camera?
Okay, as long as she can zoom in on you, you're good.
Christina? Oh, this
I'll
goes
take
with
that
this.
with the file, yeah. That's, thank you.
Okay. Our next order of business is 2023 SDFP 06, all-purpose storage owner, Fieldstone agent. Request a final review for a minor subdivision property identified as map 235, lot 021, located at 880 John Stark Highway in the rural commercial zoning district. All I
said-
have is to follow.
I know, and I never got it because I was trying to find specific wording in the subdivision criteria for the town of Newport, which I had seen at one point in time. I didn't have time to find it again, but that subdivisions can be not approved based on the belief of diminished property value based on the character of the subdivision. And I was gonna document that potential thought of diminution of property values based on the way this is subdivided, the concern of the frontage. I wasn't able to locate it, although I'm 90% sure it's written there, concern for diminished values. The frontage, the way this is subdivided is legal, but odd, and I think it makes it worse than what a backlot looks like in Newport. And so, again, it's fully legal, and I just think I think zoning might want to be changed for requirements on subdivisions.
This is basically cutting the back storage unit off from the front unit, if I'm reading this right.
Where you're creating no frontage, but you're giving 300 feet of frontage.
Splitting it here, but in order to achieve the frontage on John Stark, they've created this 10-foot strip
Oh,
like this
okay,
to achieve that.
yeah.
But that's why I wrote to follow, and I actually talked to Ken about it. I'm pretty sure it's in that. Again, it's not.
And what
that
is
this
legal access required?
This is not, this meets our criteria. The only thing that I found in the subdivision regulations, that if there's a belief that based on the way something is subdivided, that it could devalue the properties around it, there's a way to state that we're at least, we need to look into it, we're not going to approve it, is there any other way to subdivide it differently? But again, I wasn't able to, I didn't have time to locate it. But nothing that the surveyor has done is this is conforming.
So where is access to the back unit as a commercial unit?
To 100%.
Wait, we haven't accepted everything yet, so.
They have a right of way off
They
the
have a right
next
of way here.
door neighbor's property. So they don't have they have a right of way.
They have a
And
right
that's
of way
common.
on the first lot?
No.
To the second?
No.
On someone else's property.
So
This
this
next,
property owner
Okay.
has given them a right of way
Permanent
from
right.
John Stark.
so they
So
don't,
they access back here.
Oh. Okay. So to get to this commercial unit here, there's no need to cross this front?
no, and the front
All right.
property has its own access off John Stark.
Yeah,
Right, and its own frontage.
I got it.
And its own frontage.
So,
Because that's, what happens with the back lot is, if it's sold, being
have to have the 50
both
feet.
the same owners, there's no big deal because he can do whatever he wants with all his property. But if this is owned by A
Mm-hmm.
and it's sold to B, A can say B can't cross A's property. So this, as
Mm-hmm. It
long
has
as he's
its own
got,
access.
as long as he's got it, that right of way in perpetuity with this back lot,
And I
it's fine.
believe the deeds,
Because it's really not a back lot the way this is laid out.
it's not a back lot. I just was saying I find it
it's,
a back lot more pleasant. So, the deeds are gonna be rewritten, obviously. Will the back, do both lots, are both lots get the right of way, have access to that right of way?
Yes.
They both, so both will have it in their deeds, even though the front one doesn't necessarily need it, that they can use that right of way.
So how does this frontage as a piece of property attached to this back lot, if this is a right of way here?
He's got 10 feet going up the side of the front lot. Again, if you it's very, can you see it on the side?
You see the little line there coming from the back lot up to the front, up to the road?
There's like an L.
It makes an L.
I think so.
That thin strip.
Now
going-
that we
This
figured
will-
it, it's
oh.
legal. Stop. Before we go any farther.
Okay.
We've figured out that it's legally done, so now we need to accept this as complete.
so I'll make a motion that we accept 2023-SDFP-06 as complete.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Tobin. We have a motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Guys have it. It is accepted as complete.
Okay. So,
Not open, Jeff.
Okay.
Hang on.
Well, David will, and then we can talk about it and draw him in to have,
Yeah.
answer some questions and go from there.
Okay, now we will have input on the case. And you are, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is John LaFave with Fieldstone Land Consultants. We were here with this plan last year, putting in the self-storage units. The right-of-way that was mentioned along the back of the parcel, there was a previous subdivision creating some large lots that actually created that right-of-way. We benefited from it. It was the perfect means for the self-storage facility where we put it in the back. We weren't interrupting the existing auto sales that was going on in the front. They always wanted to keep those two businesses separate. When they did purchase this property, the thought was that they would lease out the front as an automotive building. And as you've probably seen over the years, automotive, they tend to change hands quite frequently. And so it's become a burden from the standpoint of, getting somebody that fits that property and having a tenant over the course of time and not having to wait, you know what I mean? A lot of times it's a vacant property, but they can see it either, they like to separate ownership. They like somebody to be able to buy that property. If they want to do a car dealership, that's great. That's what it's set up for. If they want to do something different, They can always come to the planning board with a site plan and do something different with the property. Our first thoughts on subdividing this property were to go condominium. Because we had storage units and from a standpoint of declarations, covenants, it would have been a mess. Really the best thing we could do would be to separate the properties so that the storage unit can function as it does, and whatever happens to the other property, they can function as they do as well. So we have the 300 feet of frontage that we have on John Stark Highway with a 10-foot strip to make the requirements. We are using a right-of-way, but if we went to the zoning board for a variance for 50 feet, I think it would be frowned upon, where we're not very close to what's required. So we came up with this plan, came before you tonight to see what you thought of it at the comments. We believe that this would be beneficial instead of having, a commercial lot, a sparse commercial lot, having it available to the public, someone to be able to do something with it instead of it having changed hands. That allows more opportunity for this parcel.
Okay. Jeff, you got a question?
You first, or?
Okay.
Okay, so this reminds me of something that when I was on the board previously, and it's something that I had actually brought forward, and this was on Paradise Road, towards the Sunapee side, and I'd actually had a parcel that I wanted to subdivide, and what the board did is they asked me to please put the driveway in. It was on a railroad track, and make it a road.
They made you do a private road?
They did a private road, and this should be a private road. So this eliminates a lot of problems here. This becomes a private road, and who knows what it can access in the future. And then we don't have a frontage issue. You get frontage here, and you get frontage here. And it takes away, this is very janky. I'm sorry. This here is just,
But opinions doesn't matter as long as it's legally done.
So that would be an option that the owner could explore, private road versus this.
We could always take that 10-foot strip along the road and we could put that as a site distance easement to make sure that no one utilizes it for anything. I mean, if that's something that would put that to bed. They have NHDOT access for both properties. They have great site distance. And you want to keep those businesses separated, especially, you don't want people going through the automobile dealership for self-storage and vice versa. You want them to run separately. So having their entrances separate is kind of important. We didn't put an easement for them to access that right away on the side. We thought we'd see what your thoughts were on that. We just assume remove that and have it be separate access and keep the two properties separate.
The access that's right in here on the, just the first access
This
coming
one
off the
here,
road.
right?
Correct.
Yeah. So for me, that would be a condition, either get an easement, establish an easement, or remove.
Right, and I wanted to get some consensus from the board.
Yeah.
We would like to do that, but I didn't know if there was, if they wanted to see a second means for emergency vehicles, so maybe that could be an emergency access only or something to that degree, but.
Did we get anything from fire or police on
This is a subdivision. I do that for site plans, but for subdivisions. Now, what is he asking about access? I apologize, I'm missing it.
Second means of access to that.
To the back lot or to the?
To the front lot.
Oh, is over here.
Well,
It is over in that,
so what he's saying is that gravel drive,
yes. Can
thought
go,
was leave it there for second access the way it is, or which would require an easement.
on
Thinking of the next person.
yes.
Or remove it completely, and then there would be only the main access to the parking lot. Which
the other option is to make a breakaway for just emergency vehicles.
Yeah, and, this is right on the state route. If any fire apparatus is pulling up, they're going to have no problem getting to that. So I don't even know that it's necessary, but I was throwing it out there. It's wide open, it's very accessible.
But the way it's laid out right now, you can dissolve that or
Yeah, I mean, we just assume actually probably take it up, grass it over.
It's like anything else, if they need to go across somebody's lawn to get
They
somewhere,
to get to someone else,
then
they're
that's what they're gonna
absolutely,
do.
yes.
So, I mean, if they have to use it, if that's an,
You don't have to call for permission to the
Right.
storage unit if
Right.
this building is on fire.
I mean, just for me, thinking forward to the next buyer, it's an easement, that always creates language issues. If it's not there, that's an easy one. You know, it's just not there, and you get your property this way. So that was one thing for me. The other one, is you have this other easement that would have to be, that's well delineated here, that would have to be in place for approval. Could be contingent
From the
on-
front unit.
Well, this hatched area
Yes, has
down the
to,
middle,
that's coming off the 880, the front property is the easement from.
So for these two to function the way that they are,
Yep.
to be separate businesses, there's going to be a declaration of covenants and restrictions to allow both units to be able to use the septic and the well until such a time as this changes from whatever it is to something else, which time they would break away and have their own septic system. But that was part of the site design that was approved last year, was for both buildings to be able to utilize the septic and the well. These units don't have water. What does have water is a contractor building in the back. That's the only thing that has water. And I think it might even have a bathroom. I don't remember correctly.
It's gonna have bathrooms.
Yeah. So that's the only thing that would be using that septic system right there.
So the septic system on the front property is gonna belong to the back property when you sell the front property.
No, we'd have to revisit that. But we could break away from that is what I was getting to. We could always put the septic somewhere else or what have you.
so I
When
guess,
the time comes, right now, we were just going to draft up a declaration of covenants and restrictions for this subdivision to allow them to both be able to use that. I'm just, in the future, if someone should change this from an auto dealership to something else, then, there would be an opportunity to be able to
if
separate
it
them.
exceeds the capacity of the
Correct.
unit, it has to be changed anyway.
Yeah, right.
so that would be just a contingent item in the approval, that covenant, what would you call it?
It's going to be a declaration of covenants and restrictions. It'll be more or less allowing both properties to use the leach field and the well, and for them to both be financially responsible for the maintenance and repair of, should something go wrong with them.
And that's gonna be written in the deed?
Yeah, well, that's going to be a separate thing. That'll be recorded
Okay.
as part of the subdivision. And then the deeds will refer to the plans will refer to the restrictions. See, covenant recorded. I expect them to be recorded simultaneously, obviously, but the one thing I didn't have for you tonight was the declaration. It was in the works. We've had staff shifting around between our Keene office and Milford office, and I didn't get around to getting those documents because of the other projects I was working on. Sad excuse, but I don't have them for you tonight, so I can get those to you. You can also have that, the subdivision approval be contingent upon having legal counsel review and accept the covenants to be complete, the declaration of covenants to be complete.
That would be the thing.
Jeff?
So, just to get back to my original question about this being a road, is there a reason why you wouldn't want to do this? Only in the sense that when I see this lot, and I think if I was the purchaser of this and I knew that I was restricted with only now one 300-foot section here,
I think he's thinking the two separate, the two businesses separate. I mean, I think that it would be, you don't want to have the automobile, people driving into the storage and the storage back and forth. It's to allow that, it's to create that as a separate parcel so that the automobile dealership solely has its own entrance. If you're going in there, you're going in for automobiles and you're coming out the same entrance. If you're going in for storage, you're going up that road and you're coming back out the same road.
so you don't want to allow anyone to come up in here and come into this lot, is what
No.
you're saying?
We'd rather
That's gonna
not.
be closed off.
We'd
It
rather
would
not.
make, it just cleans up, so that if somebody were to buy the automobile thing, it just cleans up not having that driveway or easement there. Even though, yeah, you get this irregular piece,
And then it would become an issue
You
with
would have-
snow plowing and all
Yeah.
kinds of things. It would just be,
so looking at that piece, that finger, I mean, to me, once that's established at 10 feet, they couldn't do nothing there and meet setbacks. So they couldn't put a sign there, couldn't do anything there in that strip.
in that strip, but they also have, a fair amount of distance down by the entrance and to the other end of the lot where they could place a sign.
Back from that.
And that's actually even better because then you wouldn't have two signs right next to each other. The self-storage sign is right here. The automobile dealership sign is down by the entrance where it belongs.
Where would you be putting the sign for the storage unit on John Stark Highway?
It's actually already been approved as part of the previous site plan with the location of the sign.
Well, but the minute you subdivide that.
Right, you've taken it, you're gonna have it on,
So
who's,
it's in the right of way, the state right of way.
oh,
Like right here.
oh,
I mean,
okay.
It's not going to be bothered by the subdivision. That's where the sign was proposed.
So it's,
Yeah, I think that was a stop sign, and that was the all-purpose sign, and the all-purpose sign is going to be within that 10-foot strip.
Oh, the state right away.
And where the existing boulders are on the side.
Oh, coming up on this outside, so.
Correct.
Is there a limit to side lot to signs?
What do you mean, like distance
Distance.
from the,
Side.
there should be, I guess, well, I forget where don't you have to get state approval to have it in this right
No,
of way?
that's the stop sign.
No.
I apologize for saying that. The stop sign's in the right of way, but our sign is actually in the 10-foot strip.
on the side.
Yes.
But if you have a side, so if you got a 10-foot strip on the side, but the side setback 15 feet or 25.
The side
can't.
setback is 10, but the front setback in this area is 50.
Yeah.
Well,
So you-
not for signs, though. Like mailboxes
it's-
and signs.
Yeah.
Is the sign wider than 10 feet? No.
No, it's,
And it would be perpendicular to 103.
it would be parallel with the access road.
Right.
Right, okay.
So
So-
you'd have like 5 feet on each side of it if it was dead center of that finger.
No, they're supposed to be 10 feet away from the other property, which would be impossible, because you only have 10 feet.
Well, that's what we were asking.
So,
The distance is, so that means you'd have to come,
Push the sign.
you'd have to put your sign way up and come in at least 10 feet.
so the
Unless-
sign ordinance has.
Can you put anything in this area?
Sign ordinance has a 15-foot setback?
Yeah.
10.
Property line,
10.
from
10
property
from
line.
the property
in.
line.
So whoever owns the right-of-way area, from their edge of their property line in has to be 10 feet, which puts you outside your finger.
I mean, we could slightly adjust that corner right there.
You
to
could
allow
make
for
that
the sign.
slightly wider.
If you, yeah. that-
Make
that
it,
would
make
work.
it like, 20, you're right, you could just round that
Like just doing
corner.
this right here.
Yeah, you could cut this corner off a little bit.
And if we wanted to, we could always go something more, just,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
whatever,
Right.
whatever needs to make it work.
So that sign fits without being on someone else's property.
So this would stay as submitted, and then when you submit the sign permit is when you'd go.
No, I would have
Well,
him,
that has to be
I'd have him
surveyed.
accept it with the changes discussed, and then the deed thing that you guys wanted, that he said to be rude via lawyer, you guys. And then when he brings the Mylar in, you would be expecting that little triangle.
I would give yourself a little leeway,
Is, yeah.
not
Yeah, the
exactly
sign's
10
not
feet to
installed
10
now,
feet.
and we're working with the company itself. We lay stuff out for them, all their buildings, we always come back, measure stuff, so what we can let them know is that they'd like us to lay out the sign and make sure that it meets the requirements for the setbacks. And I drove by tonight, you can see the sign installed yet, so I mean, that wouldn't be an issue as far as us being able to stake it up before they put it up. If you wanted to do administrative review, I could actually place the sign on there so you could see it with the distances on the plan. If you were comfortable with doing a conditional approval, if not, I can change the plan and we can come back.
Right. If it's gonna require moving that lot line slightly to make the sign get in there, I would recommend you make that change
Yeah.
and then come back and get through it. And that way you can hopefully have the declaration of covenants
Yes.
with
And
you.
then
And then it can all be there, it wouldn't be conditional, it'd be, there it is.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
does that make more sense?
Do you have time to get it all done by the November meeting?
Yeah, I mean, that's not an issue. We had a preliminary set I had looked at them. I noticed there was a couple corrections I wanted to have made to them. I just never got around to getting back to the attorney to say, hey, where are those? But, you know, because I had other stuff going on, I apologize. But I'll be certain to get those to you in a timely manner so that you can send them off to town council prior to our next meeting. And then the plan, that's an easy change. We're talking, you know, whatever that is, 30 square feet or something, just to get effect numbers.
Yeah.
And then I'll actually show that on the plan.
Yeah. I just think
So
that's
as long as it meets the 10 foot plus the width the assigned plus the 10 feet, so you're talking probably a minimum of 25 feet.
Right,
Yeah, I'll review the ordinance. That's something I missed.
And that'll go all,
You know, was that approved, like, within 10 feet of the line already? I'll just look at that, too.
well, you're doing it within now
well,
of the new property
it
owners.
becomes readily more apparent when they get that sliver.
Yeah, it just becomes more apparent, but I
Right.
think it was actually...
Yeah, it may have been, and it was an
Yeah.
oversight then, and now it just,
Now we're able to correct it.
it jumps right out, and that way, when it does sell, whatever, it's clean, I think it would be better.
Yeah, I agree.
Should you be continuing this to date and time certain? Do you have to even do that? That he's
Like,
coming
just
back?
leave it open,
we can just leave it
You
open.
leave it open, and so
It's
next
been
meeting,
started, it'll be continued business.
continue business on November 14th at 6 p.m.
If
Okay,
that
sounds
works for
good.
you.
If you wanted, I can email the plans to you, too, so if I can, time so you guys can... get
Yeah,
it.
send them all to Christina, and she can get them to
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yep.
Thank you. That's one, yeah.
And I'll talk to you
Yes.
before that, if you have any questions with the November 14th.
Yeah, no, I think it's all straightforward. I'm just hopeful to get it, so that you guys have time to review it.
So you can eliminate that side entrance
Yeah,
and
I'm gonna
all
put that
that
on the plan.
while you do
Oh, yeah.
changing your parameters for that sign.
Thank you.
We'll put entrance to be removed on the plan. We'll show changing that lot line in the corner. Illustrate the sign needs to be that on the plan. And we'll have that set up, the declaration of covenants in regards to the shared utilities, so that the town council...
That'd be perfect.
That'd be good, be cleaner.
Cool.
Good.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next order of business is 2023 SDFP 07. David and Don Nelson, owner, request a final review for a minor subdivision. Property identified as map 219, lot 051.1, located on Oak Street in the rural zoning district.
Oh, you have the larger plans too, Dave, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah. Yours is a little small. Like I can't even, well, now, no.
It used to be Iron Bridge. I mean, Iron Bridge,
Yeah, place. So, that might get back up the road, so,
We accept this application is complete. You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll motion that we accept it as complete.
Tobin will make a motion.
I'll
Have a
second.
second?
I'll second.
I usually stick to just second things.
you had a chance to second today.
We have a motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it.
Way to go, Tobin.
I don't usually do the fancy talk.
And who is presenting?
John and Dave.
There you go.
Okay, if you'd like to just tell us what you're doing.
I think you get final approval on our subdivision to subdivide a 1.6 acre parcel out of lot 51.1 on the east corner.
They're in the rural zone. You only they've met all the requirements for zoning. It's 40 at least and 100. Linear. No, 200. 200, which is, they have 201.
Okay.
They've also already received their driveway approval for where the driveway's going to go in to the,
On a lot that's not approved yet?
well, right, yeah.
Well, you can always put a
They
driveway.
could always just
You can't-
access, yeah, it's
you
a good, they
can't
can
do
get
anything
approval
with it.
to access the property in general, but for this specific lot, they have gotten approval.
Okay. No buildings on that right now, right?
Not yet, no.
On any of this lot or buildings?
I don't see anything,
No, I'm good.
just typical.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
I'll open it to the public. Anyone like to speak for? Yes, sir.
Yes, we live right across the street.
Hi.
Could you identify yourself, please?
John Pons. And I was just curious, just the size of the lot. I see it's 200 feet frontage on Oak Street.
Yes, and the 200 is required in the rural zone.
Okay. Yeah, they put the driveway in, it's far enough from the mailbox, and that's fine. I was curious, are you going to be building, or are you going to be selling the lot, or how does that work?
We're going to be building a modular home
Modular.
for her mother-in-law.
Oh,
For my mother-in-law, her mother.
okay. Okay, great. So, yeah, the other question, is it going to be a shared driveway to other locations on the lot, or we just weren't wondering how much traffic is coming
Oh. My mother's 80, she doesn't
in?
get
Oh,
much.
good. Okay. All right. Yeah, that was the only question I had, is the location and, what you plan on doing. Seems fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Anybody else would like to speak? Against? Indifferent? Okay, back to the board.
I'll make a motion that we accept 2023-SDFP-07 as presented.
I guess I'll second it.
Motion by Ken, second by Tobin. We have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. You have your subdivision. Thank you.
We do need Mylar. A Mylar? You know that, okay, I can call me that. You know what Mylar is.
I'll come see you tomorrow.
Come see me. No, I'm not in my daughter's surgery. I'm doing this, so.
Thursday?
No, I'm gonna be able to take care of her. She's gonna be at the letter. So, but it's easy. I can even call your surveyor if you want. Call me first thing in the morning. It's just, it has to be registered with somebody. You have to put on this thing called Mylar. It doesn't degrade or fade. It's a permanent, it's like plastic.
Maybe
But, well, right, that's from his old. He does, and you pay for this. Yeah. But it's required, it's not required by the town, it's required by the Sullivan County.
Okay.
And no fire doesn't ever get subdivided.
We just get into this.
But I can do just Monday, or leave a message.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, could you guys start sign these? We need 2 of them signed. We're 2, yeah,
Oh, we only got
one
one.
for,
This is one.
this one's all signed.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keep it in the same order of signatures? or-
Wherever you want, just,
You can be the chairperson.
yeah, you can be chairperson.
Too much of a headache. I didn't want to do the date. I always end up doing it, military style.
Yeah.
Throws people off.
Driveway. And then sliver on the driveway can be put in like this. To come up here with the driveway to go up into this lot. So it's very janky. Still that way.
Yeah.
But if we do that, you put yourself in the buyer of the next lot, and how would this be cleaner? And that makes it a little
I'm,
Yeah, that way, yeah, he doesn't want.
I'm
Well,
still-
they can put one. Yeah, well, now that it's not gonna be there, you ain't gonna put it.
Never put it in there.
I know, right, I don't want you to ever refuse yourself, ever.
Okay, minutes from September. And I started going through it.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes of September as presented.
I'll second that. Oh, I wasn't at that meeting.
That's all right, if
Doesn't
you
matter.
understand the
Second it.
minutes, you can still second it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have to abstain from the?
Nope.
You can though
If you,
wish.
if you
from the vote.
understand what's on the thing, if there's any, if you have a problem with it, then you can abstain, it's up to you.
Yeah, but will that give us enough to accept the minutes?
What's that?
Would we be able to accept the
Yeah.
minutes if we didn't have enough people
Well,
doing it?
Technically.
we've had this conversation.
Yeah.
You don't have to be there. If you could read them and understand them, and you present one, you can vote.
Okay, we have a motion to accept by Ken and a second by Jeff.
No, by Tobin.
Huh?
I thought
No.
Tobin.
Jeff.
No, Jeff did.
Jeff did?
Jeff
Yeah.
did this time, yep. I can't do all the seconds.
What do you expect, he's tired?
It's a race to the second.
We have a motion to accept the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Guys have it. Our next order of business is administration reference to 23 Knoll and 98 Elm. Received
Special exceptions, sorry.
special exceptions to utilize residences on properties for convalescent homes.
I just thought I'd broach, actually Ken asked me to broach this or reminded me to broach topics like this, which I appreciate. That there was 2 special exceptions given for obviously 2 new convalescent homes in town. I think the state is trying to get certain people that maybe don't need to be in large facilities, that don't need such severe round-the-clock care, you know, maybe not bedridden, are more mobile and active, into these smaller residencies that, believe it or not, the state has put a cap on. You can't have more than 5 residences per dwelling. 98 Elm is large. It used to be that Airbnb. It's a stunning property. If anyone is familiar with it, it has gorgeous decks. It used to be a bed and breakfast. It's got a huge barn on the property.
Corner
And-
Pine and Elm.
And that
Oh,
one,
yeah.
Fairbanks.
Fairbanks Mansion.
and
Yeah.
that will only ever have 5, and they are functioning, active people, and they're going to have 24-hour supervision with nurses, and then and they will be potentially working, and I guess Friday nights they're going to go out to dinner all the time, and they're going to all eat together. Like they're not going to. It's going to be like more of a boarding house. One kitchen where they eat in. And then nursing care 24 hours a day. And they both got approved. Obviously, they've got to go through the certificate of occupancy inspections to make sure they're up to standard, and then there's a lot of state oversight with them too. And I don't believe the town allows, or the state allows more than 2 in one area, so this will be the last ask by this company in the town for these 5 few. So 10 new residents will be coming into town that are somewhat disabled, that can't live independently.
Yeah.
Ambulatory type.
Yeah.
So that was given, and then there was a variance given for a 70-unit multi-housing complex on 169 Sunapee Street on the 5th, last week.
That was
Which
the parking.
you saw the case today, the apartment units.
Yeah.
That was approved because it had been approved prior due to the fact that the hardship is that structure itself. Unless you remove it or leave it empty, it's thought that virtually an industrial business ever coming into that, and it's not up to code anyways, but even if you made it up, would be very difficult. And then, so that was their rationale for accepting the variance, the structure itself. And removing the structure would probably cost a fortune. It's on the Federal Historic Registry, so I don't, but that's why that variance was given, that the structure was unique in character. It's also fully surrounded by residential. So it turning into residential is kind of, in theory, nicer than it staying industrial. 360 surrounded by residential properties. And I forget if there was another one last week, variance, or last month.
Thank you, though, it's good to know these
Yeah.
decisions.
Okay. How's the, we'll go to, we're done with administration.
Yeah.
Then, in administration, how's the survey doing?
So I went to go on because I think at this point, once I can get it on SurveyMonkey is harder than I thought. And I thought Paul had utilized SurveyMonkey before, and he hadn't either. So while it's really inexpensive, I need some assistance, and I need the SurveyMonkey link.
I believe Jim volunteered for that.
Did Jim say he knew how to do it?
Yep.
Okay, then I've got to, so it's been a little stalled once it goes out. Are you joking, or did he?
No,
Is
he
that
did.
why I remember? I think
He was the one that brought it up
I
and said
need
it was
help.
easy to use.
And how to give
At least
them the
you-
correct format and data. I have the platform. I'm going to use exactly what we built out. I just don't know how to send it to them where they can link it to their software, so when people hit buttons, it loads.
He's used it at the police station, so.
Okay, so
Right
I'll
up.
ask Jim. Plus, I also think maybe I can sub it out if someone could do a survey, upload it, some
Does
that
Allison
takes
know how to do it?
possibly.
Yeah. Anyway, he brought it up, that's why I mentioned it.
And
I'm
even
not
if we
trying
had to
throw
pay
him under
someone
the bus.
$500 to upload a SurveyMonkey, I don't think it's supposed to be hard. I just looked relatively, it took like a couple hours, and me then going, I'm confused, and I had to put it aside. So, okay, so that's why it's still, once I get the SurveyMonkey link, the one-page mailings will go out, and then again, well, you can get it in other places, hard copy. I think many people, multiple people in one family could go, adults, I think we'd be asking for, maybe I should reference that, could fill out their own surveys with their own opinions. So let's hope it will compile quickly once I get it. So that's been the holdup, Dave. Okay. So I'll go to Jim and see if he has some insight he can help me with it.
All right.
I could probably ask one of my children. They probably know how to do it, but I don't.
I was going to say, if it's computer stuff, just go to a 13-year-old.
I know exactly. They're a little older than that, but when they were, I bet you there's a good probability. So anyways, but anyways.
Are there any other communications with the board that we need to? Anything
No,
from the
I
state?
do think there was one. Oh, Leary might have wanted to broach this. I do think we might want to try to get in one
Public meeting.
one for the town meeting, the annual meeting for the town, when we get in to create a new ordinance. At least I think we could get in one. I think there's a number of things that could be addressed with ordinances. I think last time we talked was it the steep slope one. I was mostly concerned about that maybe we could get that verbiage in. I do think we could have I also think that with the survey being a little delayed, I do think there's some cleaning up of the zoning, in general, the zoning ordinances that are a little confusing that maybe could be done. And then there were also, and this was brought up by Ken, although I think the whole board, and I have a zoning board meeting next week, of the zoning board coming here maybe, or either a Tuesday or Thursday night, us getting together, or on a different Tuesday and Thursday where we have no cases.
Have you talked to them about our want to do that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. At least I think like Jeff Kessler's aware, and then Ben I think is aware. I don't know if everyone is. I don't know if everyone is on the board. We have a new guy.
At least at their next meeting, maybe just bring it up as in
and come up with a time maybe where they.
Well,
can
just
take it.
say, planning board would like to have a chair meeting to talk about just share of information, I guess.
Yeah, and I've got that down as a to-do for, on theirs,
That'd be good.
yeah.
If that's something that's not, nothing's being spoken, is that a public or non-public meeting?
It could be non-public, but I don't know if it needs to
It's
be.
not, yeah, we're not talking about
Yeah.
cases. It's
Well, I
just,
just don't know if it needs to.
It's just, it's in general,
it's
is working closer together rather than we do this, they do this.
Well, I understand the purpose of it, I'm just wondering if it needs to.
I don't think it needs to be a public meeting. I think, that could be two boards just, how do we?
We can have it non-public, but although, again, and I also think there might be, I know conservation has some ordinances that they'd like to enact, whether they get on this year's meeting, and I know that zoning has requested some also, that could even be discussed. The master plan in regards to possibly tightening up zoning or loosening up some areas, I'm not.
Well, we talked about that here with our two lot sizes and stuff.
Oh, also the other thing I'd love to see before is not allowing subdividing of that tiny in the rural zone.
Well, that's what we talked about.
Yes,
last
I'd
time.
love to see that on the ballot, and if it gets voted down, fine. But look at that lot.
So that's something we should look at.
I think that should be put on for people to vote.
Right, but we gotta go through public hearings.
You do, and that I think could be, like, even if we could get one going for this year, I think it would be helpful. And then if all next year we talk about the master plan and we'll be up ahead of the game for the annual meeting the following year with new ordinances and with more research on them. I do think that might be an easy one too. Easier one for, if you guys agree.
I think it would be easy to get written up.
To get written up, who knows if the town wants it or not.
Right.
And you have to want it. You have to think it's good for the
No,
town.
personally, I do.
I do too.
Given the nature of how fast things are growing.
I think you need to put some slight halt. Again, I know R1 zones that are 2.5 acres, R1s, there's the smallest lot you can create. Now, there are non-conforming lots that were created prior to them doing this, but 20 years ago they created that all new lots have to be 2 in the entire town. Then that's in the R1. In rural areas, they have to be bigger. So I'm like thinking, that's just huge, and look at how.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And like I said, as you get exodus from the cities and things, you get out, and
It's
do you
gonna-
want to preserve space in town?
It's
Or
gonna
do
be
you want the
Manchester
density
in
to
50
crash?
years. Yeah.
You know, it's a,
Yeah, and you have so many nice natural resources and animals, the chopping up to 40 everywhere is so low for the rural. But again,
but back to the question about the two board thing.
Yes.
I don't think that, at least personally, I don't think that's just more of how the boards function and share information.
and absolutely, and maybe it should be a non-public meeting, and there's nothing wrong, we could even still have minutes taken or
We're
not.
not talking about a case.
Right, that's why I just wanted.
No,
Yeah.
Then
you wanna-
it's more flexibility.
it's more free
And
to
our-
speak.
Well, yeah, but I think we just need to make sure there's only 2 people from the select board there, which there should only be 2, because otherwise, if there's 3, then we'll have a quorum.
Right.
So we have to make sure that no one else from the select board comes to that.
That
meeting.
we could, and if they did show up, we could always say someone has to leave.
Yes,
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Do you mean non-public or do you mean a non-meeting?
I would say it's a non-meeting work session.
non-meeting.
Work session, that's a good way to put it.
So you
Work
want it to
session,
be
work
public?
session.
Work session.
Non-working, non-public work session.
So
Just like
non-public, he wants
the
non-public,
board's going on a retreat or something,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
just talk about how we do,
not
because
videotaped,
we're not
posted.
changing rules, we're
Yeah,
not
nope,
talking
absolutely.
cases, we're just talking how we,
But you don't want Zoom on, you don't want it
I don't think we need all
videotaped,
that.
and yes, I agree.
But we wouldn't want to open that up to like the historic commission or anything else, because then we're going to end up with another select
no, this is, I mean,
person
to
on
me,
there. So just zoning and planning in a work session.
because they work hand in
They're-
hand.
they
Not
do
unlike
fine.
Conservation Commission does it well, but
Right.
at least
They're really
initially,
intertwined.
our struggle has been planning board to zoning board, back to planning board.
You create all the rules for the zoning board. The zoning board should
Gives them
either have
what?
concept of questions of why you've put these stipulations in, or why they want different ones. Right, it's, you put all the rules on it, in theory, over long years. So you're right, you are very intertwined, more than any other boards.
Yeah. And we need, I mean, there needs to be a time buffer in there so that questions can be asked.
Back.
If a case is up there and they need questions from the planning board, they ask them before they approve it.
I think more cases people should feel comfortable with, like the one you did tonight, of not having to stamp on the spot.
Right.
We are one of the fastest boards I've ever seen stamping on the spot, overwhelmingly.
Well, I think that what we're talking about right now is what we'll be talking about.
Yeah,
That
that's
meeting.
the exact conversation, but we need
We're
them.
having this here, but they're not here. So.
Right. Yeah. It's more of a meeting of understanding as much as it
Yeah.
is anything, but.
Well, and learning.
Yeah. No, I
I
like
like to learn about
just think
like
it'd be
why I
good.
went to
But
my,
we don't,
my first
we don't
zoning
want
board.
to, we don't want to become like some cities. You bring your case in September. No matter what happens, you come back in October and we'll hear your case. That puts a 60-day
Yeah, you
period that people have to wait.
look at things, yeah.
And we're not in the south where the building, even as far as Connecticut, they can build all year long because they don't have to worry about it. But up here, it makes a big difference.
But, like I said, I just want to dig in, like on a variance. Sometimes that takes time and it needs to be discussed. And that's all I'm saying, you know.
I think some cases, and they do, there are zoning board cases and planning board cases that don't get decided on the night, but I do think the boards both should feel very comfortable with the leeway, like you did with him, to say, come back. Or, I know you've seen that one site plan prior, and there isn't really any building to it, it's all internal, but say it was a massive complex. You guys have looked at it in one night. I mean, I think more comfortable is saying, let's revisit, we've heard half of it, we're gonna continue, it's gonna stay open. It should be a multi-process step instead of like you originally had it. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And then that does give you time, if you wanted to ask the ZBA questions, it can go back to the ZBA when they meet, and then that's brought to you back when you hit your next meeting. If need be, not that they all need that, but I do think some of, I know Spring Street, you took a few boards to make. I just think some things you guys are just really good at doing in doing in one night, and I don't think that has to be required.
I just think we're having a discussion now. It'll be part of the discussion we'd be having. And so we're a little premature on this discussion right here because we don't have the other board with us. So they're all great points, but this is what we should be talking about as a group. And therefore the reason why we should have the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make
good.
sense?
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And
So
the sooner the better.
Let me work on maybe, and I'll send out emails to both the boards combined, maybe the last week of this month, because I think there's 5 weeks this month, or the 4th week of this month, on a Tuesday or a Thursday. Maybe a Tuesday, because that's more they'll come to you in essence.
Well, just feel them out and see.
Yep, and I will try to get as many people as we can from both boards.
Sure.
Okay, sounds good.
Just remember that weekends are probably not going to be good.
No weekends. Tuesday or Thursday.
Thank you.
Especially during deer season.
Absolutely
holiday
not.
season, the people are
Any
Oh yeah,
season.
it would be
Everywhere.
nice. It would be
Summer
nice
season.
before November starts.
Yeah.
Because then in November, gets
Sports
holiday
season.
hunting.
Yeah.
When's hunting start?
Already.
Yeah.
Is it bow?
Yeah.
Bow
And then
already.
it just keeps coming. But
Okay. I'll try to get one in the 4th or 5th week of this
Let's
month.
double check on the rules, because the little birdies tell me it says a quorum, it could be public, like you said, so.
Right.
So we have a quorum of the boards discussing things.
It
could
has to
require
be
being
public. You can't have what about when BOS goes into non-public, or we meet in non-public in front of lawyers?
Yeah, but there's certain rules around that, what you can
Okay,
and
so
cannot
it
do.
might have to be
Yeah. Let's just
posted
look at-
publicly and everything, and whether people are,
I don't think that having it public isn't going to be a big
No.
deal.
Okay.
Because I don't think.
Yeah, I just meant mostly for
Yeah.
announcements and how much time we had to give to announce it.
I mean, I can see the danger, because if you get that many people there, that if you start, somehow you segue into a case, then you start talking, then you're in trouble quick.
Potentially.
Because it is a meeting, but
Well,
anyway.
that should be
It should be
brought
just
down
about
at the beginning of the
policy.
meeting that
Yeah.
we're
It's just
not-
about policy, internal.
Well, let's
Policy
check that
only.
before we
I will.
do that.
I will double check, and I'll double check, I was even gonna double check if it wasn't a non-public meeting, if I still had to post it, regardless.
Yeah.
To notify boards are meeting, just not public, but I'll figure the whole thing out.
Yeah, that's all. We want to avoid trouble.
Breaking rules.
Absolutely.
Okay, all set, and I agree, I don't think it'd be any issue whether we have people sitting and listening or they're not.
Okay. Does that do it for communications that you can think of?
For me, for sure.
Okay. We'll open it to the public for participation
Poor Larry's been sitting here.
pertinent to the topics within our purview.
Yeah, Larry Schissel. Two things. The first, I guess, on behalf of the Conservation Commission, Christina already alluded, the excavation project that's been going on up on North Main Street has gotten us thinking about ordinances. There is no current ordinance establishing a buffer zone around wetlands. We don't have steep slopes. The historic rains, made it abundantly clear that the wetland in that area just north of Betty Avery's has been filling in with gravel from runoff. There's been a lot of excavation that's really butted up to the back of Coit Mountain there. We haven't really talked much about it at Conservation Commission. Town meeting is months away. There's time to get ordinances, warrants together, but just starting to think ahead. These may be a couple things we want to look at least for the coming year to put to vote.
So those are like March deadlines, right?
Yes. Now I will say.
So that
the
calendar gets pretty tight fast.
Yeah, I will say it would be 2 meetings, 2 public meetings, but can be held during your other meeting, when you have cases, and then I will say the writing of it. I know the shed one. We debated is and if and this and that, that might happen, but I think a buffer zone would be a relatively easy warrant article to write, and the steep slope might be harder, but I was going to look at other steep slopes from towns.
These are things we're not ourselves expert in, so it's going to do a little research, but there's plenty of ordinances out there to draw on. We have an excellent resource in the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. So I can see that by the first of the year, we could probably have the general outlines of warrants ready to discuss with the planning board, if that sort of fits the time frame of when we have to have things ready to go, legally to the public for notification prior to.
Well, DES has a lot of that stuff for commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we can use some of their
So
slopes.
yeah, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we got to
Right.
do some, and then naturally kind of think about, there's a lot we don't know about our natural resources. We're going to have an inventory done this year, and that's going to be helpful, especially for our master plan. So, but and again, I didn't really plan to speak to that tonight, but I thought, what the heck, I'd like to just sort of let it out there that it's something, as the High Commissioner of the Commission this year, I'd like to see us, work with you guys, maybe on a few common sense things that, to protect some of the wetlands.
Yeah,
Sure.
if you guys want to get it together as a group and then bring it, present it, we can.
Yeah. Well, we certainly intend to have somebody represent us at all the meetings, so there's going to be at least some way to get communication between you guys and us.
And anything they or you decide on buffer zones or what they suggest, because you would be the ultimate ones to vote on what goes to into the warrant article. But the warrant articles themselves, we have legal that look over them to have them written correctly anyways. So if you, for example, however you write up the buffer zone, it's almost like we want a wetlands buffer zone, and then the warrant article kind of, it's almost like fill in the blanks, the board looks at, or the lawyers look it over. So you don't even have to have the exact, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Some of
They'll
these,
do the verbiage.
they'll do the verbiage. Some of these can be, I think, can be easier than like that. The shed one, we almost got in the weeds with it ourselves. I feel like with the wording.
But for public hearing, we need the exact wording.
We don't need the exact wording of the warrant article. We want the idea of we're going to create we're going to put in the warrant article a buffer zone of 50. There's no right now. You can build up to. Literally up to the inch of a
By the
wetland.
time it goes to the public, what is it, the solid session, what is it? We got an Australian ballot.
You have to have it prior to that, Larry.
Yeah, but in April, we got to have the wording because for the.
Yes.
The final,
That's
yeah, yeah.
when it's, I think that's what Ken's talking about.
But for the public.
I thought we had to have it for the public hearing
Here.
ahead of,
We may.
so we have to file it for the warrant in March.
March, but you have to have 2 public hearings
Yeah.
here at the planning
And
board.
for the public hearings, I thought we had to have it written out exactly as it was gonna show up on the warrant.
Well, if it's doable, we can get the
think so. I'll
timeline,
check
and if it,
Well,
you know, if we're rushing it too much for this year.
Like you said though, I mean, buffer zones and things have been done, it's copy and paste, we should be
It's
able to
kind
get it
of,
together.
yeah, you'd have, like, I think you'd want to know at the public meetings for the input, what if you're asking for 100 or 50, or you're asking for 500. I think that's a big deal to bring. But I don't think they need to know the legal, but I can double check that with legal.
Anyway, I just thought we had to have it for
Yeah.
the public hearings, but.
Yes, I think you have to have pretty accurate what you're gonna request. And then they could give input, if people could give input, if they, I do know in Massachusetts, like, I think the state itself has 100 or 200 feet setbacks,
Well, New Hampshire, you got 75-foot shoreline, you got.
but no wetland setbacks, which is very odd for New Hampshire.
Right, but we can.
You can make it.
Yeah, and naturally, I think, most importantly, that we get a discussion going between planning and conservation to see if it even makes sense for the town or not. But-
Yeah.
I think it does.
I think so too, it's very hard.
And the sooner we
Because
start talking.
Right now,
then the-
there's no,
No buffer,
I can go out behind my house and start excavating
right
a
up.
foot from the property pin and dig a pit.
Yeah.
As long as I fence it off so that it's not a hazard, but,
It's really hard to not be, I know, I know that.
and over time, especially if they do it during the dry season, and then
Yeah.
we get one of those once in a 50 or 100-year flood we seem to be getting a lot of lately, you end up with a catastrophe, and it's, I think,
And then no obligation to clean it up because
yeah.
it's
It's
natural.
natural.
Unfortunately. So.
The other thing is, and this is just as the public, the town, myself as the public, the town went through years and years of no real growth, and now it seems like there's an awful lot of proposals for building, and I just want to throw out, that within the capacity of the planning board, we should have sort of a, what the goal is for growth and development. We've got potentially 200 plus units being proposed now.
About 260.
And, an awful lot of growth in a short time. Maybe we need to catch up for 10 years of no growth, but an awful lot of this, I'm sure, is being driven by the federal money that is a, big cash grab for the developers. They may be giving the town what we need, but I heard tonight that, a new hire, a mechanical engineer being hired to Ruger might be offered a salary set $65,000, but that kid might be looking at $30,000 a student loan, and that kid can't
afford that.
Can't afford this, and
Well, not can't afford,
And I
can't qualify.
qualify.
Yeah, let's see.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
we can't rewrite the federal guidelines. That's the trouble.
granted, but with the capacity to say, well, we don't only need perhaps, we don't only need affordable housing. We need, affordable, which they use the term workforce, which I hate. But we also need good, affordable housing for this group in the middle, you know, the two income, who are also paying child care for their one kid, and their two incomes are coming up to 75,000. They're not qualifying, and yet they are getting squeezed because rents aren't crazy. You know, we don't have a surplus of rents, and adding affordable housing is not going to help the market adjust.
So I think one thing that was missing from his presentation on the workforce, if you will, was the job requirement.
Yeah.
He did mention it.
But, you know, that is different than, I mean, affordable, he said affordable, and I get that, but it's affordable, but you got a job.
And then at one point, this gentleman, who, you know, speaking to the burden on the school side, well, we find an awful lot of seniors. So now there's an admission that a lot of the units aren't even going to be
available to
filled up with, you know, the young folks in the service industries, and you know, so I don't know what the capacity of the planning board is to sort of put some curbs on what all our development is going to be. You know, the ultimate goal is that we have an you know, affordable, but for all people, those who qualify for subsidized housing, but the people who, you know, are going to be in the market, you know, and let the market adjust. You know, if the rents are a little too high, well, the market would adjust if there are more units, you know, for that new engineer hire who's being squeezed in the middle.
I would think from a competitive perspective that if these exist and you are a landlord and you say you're losing tenants because they're moving in there. I mean, he says they're all going to come from Newport. I tend to not really believe that. I believe they will come from higher rent areas, possibly this way from Lebanon, Hanover, etc., where rents have gone. I don't really believe that part of the narrative, because as a, you know, renter myself, I know where they come from, because when I open them up, they call from all over the place. There truly is a desperation. If I post an apartment, 5 minutes, I could literally within 5 minutes have it rented.
You know, if there were enough nurses and technicians needing to get up to Dartmouth Hitchcock, they'd even probably supply a bus and shuttle them up. You know, but you know, a nurse making 70,000 who's got 2 kids, you know, maybe in a single income, again, is not.
Well, it comes down to the developer funding side of that.
Exactly.
Can somebody float the money to build that?
We can suggest, because that's what we need, but we can't demand it.
Yeah, well, it's a shame there's too much money out there from the government right now, because a big part of their calculation is, you know, the pot of gold that they're getting. You know, and then they don't even factor in what it costs to hook up their water, and then they end up suing us, you know, some of these guys, so.
It's a different conversation.
Yeah, sorry. I strike that.
Stay in between the rails.
Right, strike that from the rails.
Somebody object.
I will say, I think the thought is, if enough people are drawn out of maybe not as, like, I do know a teacher, the art teacher, I don't know if he's at the middle of the high school, he said he easily falls in this range. Actually, he might not make 40. But
because of where they're starting.
Yeah, he's young.
Which is a different conversation.
Yeah, but he rents here in town a 1-bedroom for like $1,200, but nothing's included. And this would be way cheaper. The 1-bedrooms were only $1,125 with everything included, so that's potentially savings to like $300 a month. So I also think that maybe when they said they really thought people were going to come from Newport, maybe they're going to prioritize. If you live and work in the area, I think they can pick and choose who they're having. I don't know if that's what they meant. The other thought process is...
I just think that it may... in a lot of ways, I don't like it. Because it isn't fair to people who have a duplex or a 3-plex or 4-plex or something. They don't qualify for this money, so they're at an unfair disadvantage for what they may want to do. But if they do market rate, they need to step up the game and make it nice. Because,
Well, that's the thought.
that's
It'll help
maybe
with-
maybe, I don't know, it's very complicated. It really is, and it's.
Sure it is, and all I threw out is whatever capacity we have to kind of control our own destiny, where we're gonna be, 5 years out, with the kind of housing and the mix of housing we have. I just,
Yeah, and I think right now the pressures are so high anyways for any housing. Like you mentioned, 0.5% for
Statewide.
for the state.
Oh, it's,
You know.
if you turn, I really think,
but it isn't Newport's job to
House the
house
state.
everybody.
No.
We want to make sure that Rubers can be as busy as they want, with, and, Eichenauer and some of these, we don't want them to come to the select board saying, hey, we can't expand, or we can't do the full line of things, because nobody can
Yeah.
find a place to live here.
We don't want them to look elsewhere.
But we don't have to be the housing mecca for the whole Upper Valley. It might be good, I see why people would look for places in town. It's a great town to live in. And with a little more development, there may be even more coffee shops or things that, on Main Street. But again, it's just the right mix and the right pace of development.
Yeah, I think that, when I look at that side of it, and whether it happens in the master plan or wherever it may be that takes place, or whether we have a more public discussion about it, there's a lot of sort of deeper issues that I see in town, and that, where we have a crumbling infrastructure, and we have a separation of the rural voter and the in-town voter. So where I see a bigger issue is that we have, say, a water sewage treatment plant that is going to cost so much money because it's not tax-based. So you're expecting people who are paying into water and sewage to pay for it, and yet you're saying don't put any development in town, and yet we need those connections to pay for a system. So it goes a little more complicated than just that, because the people who are in the rural want to say keep it rural, but the people in town are saying, well, then chip in. And neither side wants to do that. So it's a complicated discussion, but it's an important discussion. And so I think, to your point, how do you do that in a way that the character of town ultimately doesn't change, and it maintains what we all know and love to be Newport? And that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
And it's only going to happen through dialogue.
And the master plan.
And the master plan, like I said, and it goes through that, and seeing where we do it and where we don't do it. And they're good discussions, but they're hard discussions.
I think you can tweak zoning and keeping it what you want.
Yeah.
With Newport, I do think there's some loopholes that you could help, and the rural is one of them. I'm not saying you don't develop rural. It's just, I think you could tweak it to not have it down to 40, every little piece down to 40,000. I mean, I look at that property and I'm like, well, I just think if someone had a lot of money, they're going to build a private road in there, and there's going to be 500 houses that go. If you had, you know what I mean?
Potentially.
Right.
Under current rules, yeah.
I know.
So.
I'm just saying maybe not let. Yeah,
Well,
I think
that's
you
a
could
worthy
tweak it.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also where when we meet with other boards and stuff, we can make sure we're all on the same page of what the goal is. So.
For a start, then maybe be more public.
Yeah.
Okay, is anybody else from the public like to speak? Okay, we'll come back to the board. What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I like your motion. Who hasn't done a second recently?
Tobin. Dave, you haven't
Dave, come on.
seconded anything.
I'll make the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. We are done at 8:03.
Is it dinner time now?
You thought you were going to get out of work.